You are listening to Filmmaking Reviews podcast, an interview with me, Catherine Tosko, editor of filmmakingreview.com. An interview with Simon Klose, director of The Pirate Bay, Away from Keyboard. If you could tell us about how you got into filmmaking.
Well, I was actually studying law at university, and at the same time, I lived in a form of commune with a lot of musicians in like a music studio, and studying law every day. And seeing these my friends making music every day, it just sort of got me to wanting to do something else. So I bought a camera and started filming them making music, and I've never sort of regretted that. So I after I finished law school, I ended up filming instead of doing law.
How did you get into doing this film in particular? You broke up in a cafe, didn't you?
Well, I actually met him because a good friend of mine had written this article about the FRA law, which it was nicknamed, a Swedish law that was passed in 2008 that gave the authorities a power to warrantlessly surveil Swedish internet communication and telephone communication, which meant that basically it was like a wiretapping law.
Yes.
And since we kind of felt that we lived a large part of our lives online, we thought that this was really scary and stupid, quite frankly. So my friend wrote this article, and Brokep called him up and said, hey man, we're going to have this demonstration in Malmö where you live. Do you want to come and be part of that? And so my friend called me up and said, hey man, who are these Pirate Bay guys? What are they? Are they crazy? Who are they? Tell me about them. And I didn't really know at that point, but I was curious, and I was kind of using the Pirate Bay. So when my friend asked me to come down and meet Brokep, I came with him, and we had a coffee.
Right. Okay. So you were file sharing yourself at that point.
Totally.
Yeah. So I think it's difficult. A lot of our readers are based in the States, and I think that it's very different in Europe, the kind of attitude towards file sharing and copyright law. But in Sweden, I think it's rather unique, isn't it? It's more advanced.
I think so.
Almost.
It seems so. I think that there are certain I don't know, like structural, historic reasons for that. I think some of those reasons are that we had a couple of political reforms and political decisions in the early 90s that one was about giving every Swedish household a free personal computer, or a very cheap personal computer. Mm-hmm. And another political decision in the early 90s was to invest in major broadband fibers very early on. Mm-hmm. Which meant that Sweden had a really, really fast broadband and a really sort of high computer literacy.
Yes.
Really early on, so to speak. And I think that was one of the reasons that communities around file sharing and communities, so-called piracy movement, started and took off in Sweden.
So do you think that copyright is outdated now, the concept of copyright completely?
No, I don't think it's completely outdated. I think that, copyright should work as an incentive to create. So copyright should have that type of function. But I think that today it doesn't work that way. Today, copyright is mostly used for large companies who sit on large sort of banks of rights, and I think that the current copyright is actually I think the copyright needs to be changed, actually, or amended. And I think it should be suited more for the internet age, where the possibility to share culture is so much greater. And I think that the current copyright is well, basically needs to be changed.
Yes, old-fashioned.
Reformed, yeah.
Yes. So in your case, you've decided to share your film under 2 Creative Commons licenses, haven't you? Could you tell us a little about those? Because I think that's very interesting for our readers.
Yeah, it's been very interesting for me as well. You know, Kat, you know, this is a learning process for me as well. And I'm not this super techie guy from the beginning. I don't really have that. I don't really have that background, actually. So it's been really interesting for me. But I do have a law background, though, and the whole Creative Commons thing is really great, because Creative Commons is a system that lets us, the people who create culture, give our audience the right to do certain things with our artworks. And for me, I believe that I'm a documentary filmmaker, and I think that if I have a huge sort of, with this project, I have a huge online audience, and I think that it will be good for me if I can license the film in a way that it will spread as much as possible. My dream is that my film will be seen as much as possible and shared as much as possible. And I'm also selling the film. And I think that by sharing my film for free and spreading my film and showing people that if you choose to pay for this film, I'm totally fine if you just copy it. But if you choose to pay for it, I will get the most amount of money here. It's not all these middle hands, but it's me selling the film. I'm some dude on the internet in a beard and a hat, and I'm getting the money if you choose to pay for it.
Do you think it's a weird concept that people can't quite see? Oh, this guy has made a film that's free to share, so why is he selling it? Especially if it's about Pirate Bay. Why is this guy selling a DVD? Do you think people have missed the point that you're a filmmaker and you still deserve to be able to sell your work? Because I've had that reaction from people when I tell them that I was interviewing you. They're like, well, why is he selling his film then? You know.
Well, you know, first of all, I think that a lot of people in the community, they think it's really sarcastic and ironic and funny, and they just pay for the hell of it, kind of, you know. That's one thing that I really get. You know, people are saying like, "This is the only film I'll ever pay for," and you know, stuff like that, which is kind of cool. But from some point, I really think that, you know, I want to prove that a lot of people are saying that, you know, free cannot be a viable business model, and free will never work, and so forth, and we must have these paywalls and so forth. So I just want to prove that I believe that it can be a sustainable business model. I don't, however, think that, you know, having free films is the way to go in the future and all films must be free. I think that every film should have its own strategy, and I think it would be a bad strategy for me to only sell this film. I think I would be perceived as unauthentic and not knowing my subject matter if I didn't give out this film for free. I think that would be a bad business strategy.
Yes.
So that's why I'm giving it out for free. But I just want to finish off on the Creative Commons license there. I'm not going to talk your head off, but
go.
I wanted to give my audience the right to share the film. There are a couple of different things that I use the Creative Commons license for. The first part is basically that I let the audience share my film, which means that my film will be able to spread as much as possible, and I can have as many people as possible to watch my film, and I believe that will be good for me as a filmmaker in the future.
Yes.
So that's number one. Number two is that I really want to give the audience a chance to remix my film. And I think that, first of all, remix is a very important part of internet culture. Remix is basically taking different works, mixing them up in a collage, and creating something new. And it's very complicated today with the current copyright laws to remix stuff if you have to ask permission and stuff. So for me, the reason I want people to remix my film is that I believe that by mixing my scenes or my film up with other stuff will will make my film being seen by new audiences. It will spread to new people, and it will also take new forms that I'm not in control of. And I think that's so cool. It will end up in like serendipitous ways, and it can evolve like a dynamic organism. And I find that really interesting. So I really want to encourage that. But since I had bought around 4 minutes of archive material from the Swedish national broadcaster, SVT or SVT, they would not allow me to license the film under a Creative Commons license that gave my audience the right to remix their archive material. Since their archive material was like news presenters, it was like news shows and stuff, they didn't want me to remix their news anchors and their, people they had filmed, not knowing about this Creative Commons license years before. So that meant that I had to license the actual film under a license that lets people share the film but not remix it. And then, since I think it's so important with remix, I'm going to do a second version of the film where I simply cut away these 4 minutes of archive material and release a film that's 4 minutes shorter, that is 81 minutes instead of 85 minutes, under a license that lets people share the film and remix the film.
Right, okay. It's brilliant concept.
Well, that's the idea. I mean, it's not everybody wants to go and remix the film. I think the sharing part is much more important.
Yes.
But I know there's like a bunch of people who want to remix the film, and I really think that's going to be good for my film and good for me as a filmmaker.
Yes.
And it's also really exciting. I've actually taken the film, I've stripped off the music so they don't, and I give them the film in high resolution, and then I give them the music on a separate track in high resolution.
Yeah.
And then I give them a font. We have actually a customized font, a handmade font, so that they can write their own signs or whatever, if they speak Romanian or whatever, and I didn't make a Romanian version of the film, now they can go and do that themselves.
That's brilliant. And is that on your website, or did you choose people to do that?
No, that's on my website. It's going to be on my website.
Cool.
On Friday when we release everything, it's going to be on my website.
Excellent. Okay. And then if you can tell us also about the distribution you did with TV channels, because it's a first, isn't it, this film, for TV channels?
Yes. Well, we have partnered with 6 public broadcasters in Europe. And our main partner is our Swedish public broadcaster, SVT. And then we are also partnering with DR from Denmark, NRK from Norway, VPRO from Holland, and then Arte ZDF, which is the French-German channel. And then at last we have the BBC on.
And when will they be showing your film? Is it synced up with your release, or will it be in the future?
No, well, they will broadcast the film during spring. Some will broadcast it pretty soon after the actual Berlin Film Festival.
Yes.
Already in February. And some will wait a little longer until around April or so, March, April.
Okay.
Through the spring.
Something to look forward to on TV. Very nice.
And it's also going to be some of the channels have done different versions as well.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Be slightly different there as well. So I see that as a remix as well, which is kind of cool.
That is cool. So, do you think that you've learned a lot about distribution? You must have learned tons about distribution, and you must have a lot of ideas about, teaching other people how to do this. Do you think that the MPAA, do you think they could learn a lot from what you've done? Would you like to be able to share your information with them and what you've done?
Yeah, totally. I want to share my information to independent filmmakers, documentarians, and Hollywood lobbyists, Motion Picture Association lawyers. I want everybody to gain information about the stuff that I've learned, because I really think they can learn a lot from the stuff that we're doing.
Yeah.
We are focusing on getting filmmakers as large cut as possible. And tying stronger bonds with their audiences. And I think that Hollywood still has a lot to learn there. I think they are still sort of clinging on to old ways of
there seems to be that great divide, doesn't there, between the internet and how that society works and the studios and going to the cinema. It still seems to be that kind of model.
I think it's horrible, really. That it's like after the 4 years that I've been doing my film, there's still no way that I can stream a new film. I mean, that's the way consumers want to consume their films. And there is no way to do that. You can't download films legally. You can't stream films legally. It doesn't exist. And that's the way everybody wants to consume it. So I think it's depressing and bizarre that they, in all these years, haven't been able to come up with a service or a product that gives the consumer what they're asking for. And instead they're trying to limit the internet and surveil their own customers.
Yes.
Which I think is really scary and bad for society.
Did you think that there is a future for the Pirate Bay online in this in this climate?
Well, the Pirate Bay is I think around the 70th biggest site in the world today. Mm-hmm. It's celebrating its 10th anniversary this year, and I think that this one of the things that my film is about is this sort of power shift where a couple of really young computer rebels are taken to court, convicted, giving astronomical fees, but still the sort of largest and wealthiest corporations in the world can't touch their little website.
Yes. I
think that's really interesting. So yes, I think that the Pirate Bay will exist until something better comes and takes its place. That's what I believe.
Do you think you could give us a couple of top tips for our independent filmmakers on what you've learned, or maybe a couple of
start talking to your audience early on. Start maybe try and do crowdfunding campaigns and try and build up like communities. Try and find communities, already existing communities. Try and tap into those and talk to them and try and do crowdfunding campaigns way before you release the films. You build up that, you have that discussion with your audience before you actually, long before release. I think that's a dynamic process, and I don't think that you have to show people your entire film. I didn't show people my film, but I kept talking to the audience, but without really giving them, what I was actually doing, Mm-hmm. So I think you can still be this secretive filmmaker and still talk to your audience. I really think so, And then I think that you should try and sell the film yourself without all these middlemen in between. I'm using a company called VHX. Mm-hmm. There are other companies out there called everything from Distrify to there are other platforms out there that lets you cut away middle hands and basically sell your stuff directly to your audience.
Yes,
that's another great way to do it. And work hard and fail often and fail fast.
I know that one. Yeah, don't sleep.
Those are the tricks.
Yes. Well, look, it's been lovely speaking to you, and I really wish you all the best with this. I think it's a great project. Kat. Yeah.
Thank you so much,
we'll speak to you again, hopefully.
Thank you so much.
The major motion picture studios lost an estimated $6.1 billion to piracy.
USAs regering hotade Sverige med handelssanktioner om inte fildelningssajter som The Pirate Bay
stoppades. We applaud the Swedish authorities for doing that. This was an important site for us to get.
Imorgon så startar rättegången mot grundarna av fildelningssajten Pirate Bay.
Vad ska de göra åt saken? De har misslyckats med att ta ner sajten en gång. De kan gärna komma och misslyckas fler gånger.
Det handlar egentligen inte om juridik imorgon, det handlar om politik i första hand.
Jag kan med glädje idag meddela att The Pirate Bay är uppe igen. In your face, Hollywood.
De har ju byggt en affärsverksamhet man levt bra av, som bygger på att man förmår andra att begå brott.
Vi har ju begärt då en summa på 93 miljoner.
Så fort det kom ett mejl från rättighetshavare, varför gick det till dig att svara på det?
Jag uttrycker mig bra i skrift, till skillnad från exempel Fredrik.
Godfrey is the stupidest person in the entire history of IT. He needs to look himself in the ass and take his own life in his hand.
När träffades ni första gången? IRL?
Vi använder inte uttrycket IRL, vi använder AFK som betyder away from keyboard. Vi tycker att det är på riktigt på internet.
hela dagen.